It all began with the guest room. Thus, tales of this nature invariably commence, pure, mundane, and easily overlooked. A suitcase rests by the entrance. A hug that stretches into an extra heartbeat. A voice that had long been absent, now echoing. Greetings. Are you still brewing that delightful cinnamon coffee in the mornings? Lucas, the younger brother of my husband, the life of the party at family gatherings, the eligible gentleman with an impeccable jawline, and a laugh that effortlessly sweeps your thoughts away. He was never truly mine. Should never have been. Yet, as he stepped across our threshold that summer, a transformation stirred within me. Negative. Unmoved. Awoke from slumber. For years I had drifted through life in a haze, untouched by the sensation of true wakefulness. Marriage possesses a unique ability to wrap you in layers, organized, orderly, and expected. You transform into the woman who keeps track of birthdays, fills the fridge, and arranges the dentist visits. You fall silent, effective, a mere shadow in the familiar confines of your dwelling. Yet that evening, as Lucas set his duffel bag down at the foot of the guest bed, he regarded me as if I remained the focal point of the performance. Do you still have that painting nook in the sunroom? He inquired, his fingers gliding over the weathered surface of the upright piano that had long been untouched. I blinked. That term has fallen out of use, I remarked. A smile graced his lips. Indeed, it lingers in my memory. You once remarked that the room enhanced the vibrancy of colors. Nearly 10 years had passed since his last visit. He had relocated to Chicago. I constructed a semblance of existence that I was only familiar with through occasional holiday updates. Yet here he was returning for the summer once more, engaging in remote work, assisting their mother with the relocation, resting quietly just a few steps away. During that initial week, all seemed to unfold as expected. Evening repast at 7 o'clock. 8 dishes washed. My husband, Mark, drifts off to sleep with the TV remote perched on his chest, just as he always does. Lucas and I would share playful glances over the remnants of yesterday's meal. I reassured myself that it was nothing more than that. Innocuous. One evening, Mark found himself on a late work call. As I poured myself a cup of tea, Lucas strolled into the kitchen. You still hum when you're lost in thought, he remarked, propped against the fridge. You've always had that way about you, even when I was merely the bothersome younger sibling trailing behind. A chuckle escaped my lips. Gentle. Introspective. I was unaware that I continued to do so. I observed, he remarked. There was an unsettling quality to his words that sent a shiver down my spine. It was never about the words. It was the focus. His gaze lingered on me, as if I were someone deserving of his attention. Not a spouse. Not a parent. Simply myself. Later that night I found myself in the bathroom, toothbrush in hand, and for a moment, my reflection appeared to me in a new light. Not any younger. Not more beautiful. Merely conscious. Conscious of the curve of my neck. The manner in which my robe draped elegantly from one shoulder. My eyes appeared a touch more alert than they typically do. As dawn broke, I brewed a fragrant cup of cinnamon coffee. I chose not to inquire further. It wasn't merely that Lucas took up residence in our home. It was the way he observed the world around him. As I consistently found myself glancing at the oven light twice, even in moments when it remained unlit. Or how I would press my thumb against my ring finger in moments of anxiety. Little details. Matters my husband had not brought up in ages, if at all. As dusk settled, we found ourselves facing one another at the kitchen island. My son was on the upper floor. Mark found himself once again immersed in a late-night call. Lucas cradled a glass of red wine as if it carried a weight of significance. Do you still paint? He inquired, gesturing toward the hallway that opened to the sunroom. I gave a slight shake of my head. There's no time. He gazed at me, truly gazed, and remarked, You once spoke of painting as if it were your lifeline. It had been years since anyone had spoken to me in such a manner. Not due to a lack of concern from my husband, yet perhaps he ceased to inquire. Perhaps I ceased my volunteering efforts. I took a deep breath. Attempted to brush it aside with humor. It has become more challenging now. Everything transforms when you step into the role of a wife. One's mother. Lucas inclined his body, eager and attentive. forearms resting on the countertop, gaze gentle, unwavering. And who do you become in the shadows, when the world is blind to your presence? I remained silent. I was unaware. That weekend, Mark embarked on a 2-day work trip, a conference taking place in Denver. He pressed his lips to my cheek in farewell as he always did, courteous, rehearsed, and only partially there. Lucas lingered, expressing his willingness to mend the shattered garden fence. He mentioned that he appreciated the tranquility of this place. I did as well. That evening, once my son had drifted off to sleep, I discovered Lucas in the kitchen barefoot, crafting a grilled cheese sandwich at the late hour of 10 p.m. He extended half to me. I agreed. We lingered in quietude, masticating, attuned to the gentle hum of the refrigerator. He then inquired, "What were your aspirations before everything changed?" It was not imposing. It lacked any hint of flirtation. It was even more troubling, it was authentic. And that filled me with a fear unlike any other. I shared with him the story of the art scholarship I chose to decline, the story of my near relocation to New York. Once, I envisioned myself leading workshops in bright, sun-drenched studios. He listened as if every word held great significance, as if every neglected fragment of my being held significance. At one moment, I lifted my eyes and met his gaze, unwavering, serene, and oddly comforting in a manner that felt perilously effortless. "I believe you're still present within," he remarked. "Who is it? The girl who once wielded a brush. The woman who once laughed with every fiber of her being. She remains here. She has simply been waiting." It was overwhelming, uncomfortably near. I rose to my feet, feigning the act of washing my plate, feigning that my heart wasn't pounding fiercely enough to rouse the entire household. He chose not to follow, did not exert pressure. As I stepped out of the kitchen, his whisper reached my ears, just audible enough for me to grasp the words. "You need not fade away simply because others have grown accustomed to your silence." That night, slumber eluded me. I reclined next to the vacant space where my husband once lay, grasping a pillow that had lost his scent, pondering over questions that seemed to tether me to hope, and the gentleman down the corridor who was inquiring of them. When it occurred for the first time, it was insignificant. Or perhaps, that's the narrative I crafted for my own solace. The backyard was our setting. Lucas diligently worked on mending the shattered garden fence, just as he had vowed to do. I approached him with a glass of lemonade in hand, dressed in a worn white t-shirt that clung just a bit too tightly in the sweltering summer heat. I extended the glass to him. Our fingers grazed against one another. It was a fleeting moment, just a fleeting moment. Yet neither of us chose to retreat. He cast his gaze upon me, and I returned the glance. And in an instant the yard seemed to shrink, as if the very walls had drawn in closer around us, as if the universe had paused, granting me a fleeting moment to decide on a path I could never undo. I chuckled with an exuberance that perhaps was a touch too pronounced, retreated a bit too hastily, uttered a remark easily dismissed such as, "It's hot out here." He simply smiled, the sort of smile that understood precisely what I was fleeing from, and precisely where I would find myself in the end. That evening we settled in to enjoy a film. My son ascended the stairs at an early hour. The house descended into a silence so profound that the sound of your own heartbeat echoed in your ears. Lucas reclined at the distant edge of the couch, considerate, yet, as if he wished to preserve the tranquility of the moment. But then I remarked, "You're welcome to sit closer if you'd like." And he indeed did. The details of the plot escape my memory. It was merely that my knee brushed against his in the midst of it all, and this time, neither of us stirred. His pinky lingered on my thigh for a moment that felt like an eternity. The warmth surged through my chest. And then he uttered a phrase that dismantled the last remnants of the rules I had been clinging to. "You are no longer required to face this journey by yourself." It was not an invitation. It was a beacon of hope. A phrase that unearthed a fragment of my being, a part one had long ceased to heed. My gaze fell upon him. He gazed at me as if this moment had been anticipated since the very day he first stepped into our lives. I was the one who initiated the kiss. I can't recall the moment of leaning in, just the sensation of surrendering to the fall. His lips were a blend of wine and flames, as if a person had mastered the art of self-control, yet ultimately chose to cast it aside. His hands remained still. They lingered in anticipation, outlined my jawline. I tucked my hair behind my ear, and I allowed it to happen. Allow them to unravel me. Allow them to evoke the feelings of being desired once more. The duration of our stay remains a mystery to me, enveloped in that perilous, charged stillness. Yet, as I finally rose to my feet, I murmured, "This must not occur once more." He gave a slight nod, yet his eyes conveyed a different message. It will. Later that night, I found myself in the bathroom, my toothbrush idle in my grasp, gazing intently at my reflection. My lips remain tinged with a vibrant hue. My skin remains warm. And within me, a tempest I hadn't experienced in ages. It is not love, not desire. Something more troubling. Desire. The following morning I meticulously folded the laundry, my hands trembling with unease. One of Lucas's t-shirts retained the fragrance of cedarwood and the essence of summer. I grasped it for far too long, pressed it against my cheek like a timid soul. A woman who had firmly decided yet sought a pretext to feign uncertainty. I reassured myself that it was merely a single kiss, that it might remain hidden away. It might vanish amidst the mundane, cloaked in civility and pretense. Yet, each time I walked by the guest room, my breath hitched in my throat. In those fleeting moments when our gazes intertwined, an unspoken understanding passed between us. Once more, it unfolded 3 nights later. The rain fell steadily from the sky. Once more, the sort of rain that gently taps on the windows, as if pleading for entry. The kitchen was our setting. The hour had grown late. He was brewing a pot of tea. I found myself feigning engagement with the pages before me. Then he uttered it, gentle, scarcely rising above a murmur. "I haven't touched anyone since that night." I chose not to respond. There was no necessity. He advanced a step nearer. Then yet another. And when he finally stood before me, I had long ceased the charade of inhaling. This time he refrained from asking, without a moment's pause. His lips sought mine as if they were reacquainting themselves with a familiar route, as if they had lingered far too long. This moment transcended a mere kiss. It encompassed all that one could desire. The soft thud of my sweater meeting the floor echoed in the quiet room. The soft hum of the dishwasher plays in the background. The manner in which he uttered my name, not as if seeking an answer, but as if invoking a sacred vow. Silence enveloped us as the conclusion settled in. He pressed his forehead to mine, and I shut my eyes as if pleading with the universe to spare me from its wrath. That night I lay in my bed next to my husband, who, as was his custom, turned away in his slumber. I gazed up at the ceiling, attempting to tally the stars hidden from my view. The following morning, I observed Lucas from my seat at the breakfast table. His jaw was taut. His knuckles whitened as they gripped the coffee cup. My son spoke about school. My husband perused his phone. And Lucas raised his gaze to meet mine and silently formed the words, "Are you okay?" I gave a slight nod. Deceived. What other course of action was available to me? That afternoon, I unveiled a fresh canvas. After a long hiatus, I finally picked up a brush and created a piece of art. It was a mystery to me. Yet my hands stirred as if they recalled the sensation of truly living. As Lucas moved past me, silence enveloped the moment. Lost to me. The only sound that reached my ears was the delicate clink of my fork against the plate. The motion of Lucas's throat as he swallowed. The symphony of shattering softly, elegantly, unseen. Following the conclusion of dessert, Lucas rose to his feet. He mentioned that he needed to leave. Morning departure. A hectic week looms on the horizon. He embraced each person warmly. Even I. Yet it lacked the warmth of a hug. It was a farewell. His lips grazed my cheek, deliberate, lingering, and anything but casual. Too gentle to lack significance. He leaned closer, his voice a soft murmur that brushed against my ear, just audible enough for me to grasp his words. "You were always seen." After that, he departed. An hour later, I ascended the stairs, disrobed in the shadows, reclined next to my husband. He remained facing away from me. He simply never did. The following morning, I stepped into the sunroom. The light was gentle, reminiscent of the days when I would immerse myself in painting. And for a fleeting instant, just one sharp, unforgiving instant, I longed to return. Not for Lucas. For my own reflection. For there are moments when a betrayal does not shatter the bonds of matrimony. It merely reveals the fragment of you that has already perished within it. I kept it to myself, never sharing a word with anyone. Not a chance. Yet each time I find myself at that table, sandwiched between the husband I chose and the one who truly recognized me, I understand that the truth lies beyond him. It's the essence of my being, the moment someone dared to inquire if I still existed within.